Hello there, gents and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Three Guys and One Mic, the podcasters you don't really deserve and don't really need, honestly. Here we have a special episode for you guys. We're going to have a guest speaking with us today on a very important topic that you guys obviously know that we love to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Kenobi series. And Mark, why don't you introduce our guest star today?
Well, this man, let me tell you, I've known him for about 8 months now, probably, more or less. He touts me around as an award-selling, New York Times selling best author, even though the book is only on Amazon and is only top 400 in Middle Eastern biographies.
I mean, one of the bed podcasts actually did an episode about that book, so I think you're pretty famous, actually.
And we will get that out to you at some point soon, hopefully. Audience, stay tuned for that one. But he's a man, he's a myth, he's a legend. He speaks almost exclusively in Star Wars memes, especially when I'm at work. His name is Lorenzo. How are you doing, Lorenzo?
Just dandy, Mark.
Well, Lorenzo, since you are a guest, and you know what, this is kind of like officially one of the first times we can say we have had three guys on the one mic.
Yeah, since our, second episode, yeah.
Right. I think we had four guys.
That's true, yeah.
It was this is like the first three guys, one mic, except that, audience, the third guy is always you. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Man, I think I just cried. I got chills.
Yeah.
Man, wow.
But, Lorenzo, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us kind of your, I guess maybe your history with Star Wars as a fan, as we've already kind of done this quite a bit.
All right, let's get started. Yeah, so I'm Lorenzo, affectionately known as Kylo Renzo in the workplace environment. But yeah, I think Star Wars has kind of been a second religion to me. I think it has been for a lot of people, maybe even a first religion, for being honest. But
controversy on the pod, ladies and
gentlemen. So yeah. So I grew up with younger brothers, younger sisters. I'm the oldest in the family, oldest of 5, kind of bigger family. And I remember distinctly the first time I saw anything from Star Wars. I think I was like some play group or something. My mom was chatting with the other moms, and I was in the basement with the other kids playing, Legos or stuffed animals, something like that. And on this old TV, they were watching the full screen VHS edition of Phantom Menace. And it was the pod race scene. And you could hear the engines going, do, 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 Sebulba's pod racer and everything, and all the weird aliens. I was like, hey, what's that? And the other kid's like, oh, that's Star Wars. And I'm like, what's Star Wars? And that's kind of the genesis.
The genesis, the beginning. You know what's funny is recently Lorenzo and I have had a what's this kind of moment. Just on a side note, we were kind of hanging out with a bunch of guys, and we were playing Battlefront 2, the original. That was kind of our Star Wars night. This is how big of fans we are, but that's besides the point. Lorenzo has still kept that attitude because we said, did you download Battlefront 2? And he's like, yeah. And we're like, all right, just open up Steam and add us. And he goes, what's Steam? And it turns out he had downloaded it from some sketchy, Uncle Joe website, givemeavirus.net. So all this to say that he is a huge fan of Star Wars, and we're really excited to have him on the podcast. He's willing to download Battlefront 2, a game he's never played. He's not really a gamer. Onto his...
Yeah, definitely not a gamer. I played like a couple Lego games, like Wii Sports. We got a Wii back in like the late 2000s when everybody got a Wii for Christmas, and I never really stuck. So yeah.
What's a Wii? I'm playing.
Yeah, I know you are, Kody. I can't. You didn't sell it well enough for me.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I guess I don't know. Maybe I just look like the rich kid that always had a Wii and a Wii U and a Nintendo growing up. Actually, I didn't.
Especially right now with your new haircut and...
Okay, well, going on to Kenobi, just warning for you guys, there are going to be spoilers. We're going to be talking about how these first 2 episodes that premiered really went, what our opinions are about it. But before we start, we have our beautiful way of kind of dropping the tea. Mark, how do we do that?
So, if you guys are longtime listeners, you'll know with the sequel trilogy, just because of how bad it was, and I was going to have a headache getting through it, I needed some sort of caffeine, some sort of refreshment to kind of get through the episode. And that tradition's going to continue today. Unfortunately, I don't have a can of soda. I just have like a bottle of Monster Gatorade kind of thing.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
is the best way to call it. But listeners, just for your guys' listening pleasure. I don't think that was necessary, but I really wanted to sell it, and I can kind of smell it in the air.
There you
And
go.
let me take a swig real quick, and let's begin, Kody.
Yeah, Monster, please sponsor us.
We'll take it. It's better than Pepsi, but like everything.
Awesome. So, pretty much the Kenobi series kind of starts off after Revenge of the Sith really ended. We find pretty much Obi-Wan kind of on Tatooine. He's kind of, I don't want to say, yeah, he's kind of a refugee pretty much after everything that happened. The opening scene kind of opens up with Order 66. All the Jedi in the temple are pretty much being mutilated. Awesome watch. I guess, do you guys want to go through the synopsis of this, or would you guys rather just head right in with your opinions about how the show is really going so far?
Well, let's go with a little synopsis. Just
Yeah,
like
I think that's a good idea.
Just a very brief, just we don't have to get too deep into it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's mostly exposition.
Right.
So, like the episode, they're all just, called Part 1, Part 2. So Part 1 and Part 2. So Part 1 starts off, like Kody said, taking place during Order 66. We see the Jedi Temple. We see a little group of, not even Padawans, they're just younglings.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing their little lightsaber training. And then the clones burst in, they're shooting and all this stuff. And I thought, that was a really powerful way to kind of, boom, kind of get you into that mindset of the shock factor of what happens to our characters afterwards. And for our eagle-eyed viewers, there is a girl, Padawan, and she turns out, at least we're theorizing, we're pretty sure, it's Reva, who is the third sister, one of the Inquisitors. And then the story jumps 10 years later, Tatooine, we get to meet Obi-Wan, and he's basically a meat slicer, kind of like me.
Yeah, meat slicer. Hey, yo, Jimmy John's. We'll take the sponsorship. We'll take anything at this point. But moving on. He's slicing meat. He's in the desert, and the show kind of does a really good job of... it's basically a boring, repetitive life. Like, he goes to work, he clocks out, he's not treated well. No one around him's really treated well. He commutes, he goes to his little cave, he sleeps, rinse and repeat, and they do that throughout the show multiple times. And then kind of one of the springboard for the episode happens when the Inquisitors, show up to a bar in Tatooine, and it looks like they're hunting a Jedi, and they basically get him, and he runs away, and, he gets him to reveal himself, and he runs away, and he finds Kenobi, and they talk, and Kenobi's depressed, and he says, hey, don't be a Jedi basically anymore, it's over, we're done. And this whole episode is not a ton happens, but it kind of builds up Kenobi just living in the desert, being like a nomad, being a recluse, and really being broken down, depressed. So I guess that's kind of like the meat of the episode. So anyways, do you want to start off, Lorenzo? You want us to start off with that episode specifically? Tell us what you think about it, and kind of like what you liked, what you didn't like, all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. So, first episodes of shows are absolutely important, especially when you're doing like a mini series, because it's kind of make or break for the audience. And it does feel kind of slow. But one of the things they did do is there's like a 3-4 minute recap, like supercut of the prequels, kind of with some hype music and stuff.
Hype music.
And basically it's kind of setting it up to be really not just a show about Obi-Wan, but a show about, Anakin, how he's Vader, and kind of what we're going to see them meet at some point. And it's kind of him reckoning with his identity crisis. He was a Jedi Master, now he's not. And at least at this point, according to the show, he doesn't believe that Anakin's alive. He believes that Anakin's dead, that he died on Mustafar. And so we just kind of see him as, dejected and completely lost. And I think those kind of scenes of just him like sitting in his little cave, or just little riding his EOP, his little animal across the dunes.
His little not camel.
Not a camel. Little camel with a little trumpet like elephant nose.
Elephant camel.
I think those scenes, far from anything that's said, those kind of make us feel for Obi-Wan, to kind of see he's really lost a lot of his positivity, because we see him in the prequels as kind of happy-go-lucky. He's got a positive spin. He wants to solve problems, be the negotiator.
Yes.
Yes. The negotiator. But now he's not that. He's just a regular guy, and it seems like he, in a lot of situations in the episode, we see like whether it's at his workplace or kind of with Lars, Uncle Owen, when we see him interacting with him, he's just lost a lot of that kind of forwardness, that kind of, I kind of want to say moxie. He's kind of willing to retreat into himself.
Right. And also kind of not more than just losing that moxie. You can kind of tell in the episode he doesn't really have the ability to use the Force much anymore. Like he's almost cut himself off. Like that's been a thing in Star Wars. I don't know if he intentionally did it or just kind of stopped like using the Force, obviously to hide and whatnot. But there is a scene that like, it's a really desperate scene that shows how like kind of down he is. He's like having nightmares about, Order 66 and Anakin specifically and kind of like what happened with their battle of Mustafar and how, he failed. He's obviously struggling with that. He wakes up and he calls for Qui-Gon. And I think about it, it's been 10 years and, the end of Revenge of the Sith, Yoda says, hey, I'm going to teach you how to basically talk to Qui-Gon, but it's been 10 years, he still hasn't been able to speak to him. So that kind of tells you the state he's in. He's definitely a weakened version of himself. He's not willing to stand up to people like at the meat factory, there's, people being rude. Like I don't even think it's about him hiding. I just don't think he has the ability to stand up for himself anymore.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I just think it's beautiful the way they're able to portray Obi-Wan in this lower, dejected state. I think it's really interesting to be able to get into the psyche, just like you said, just without even saying any words, just his facial expressions, the way he holds himself, it's not the same. Like he used to be Space Jesus,
Oh,
like,
definitely.
That's Ray.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have to talk about that. That's
sorry, listeners.
It's a whole other pot.
But yeah,
check out our sequel trilogy review.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I haven't seen this movie, but I need to see it. It's called I think it's The Last Temptation of Christ or something. And Ewan McGregor, he plays Jesus, and it's about his 40 days in the desert.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No way.
Absolutely.
When did this come out?
I think it was like 2017 or 2018.
Okay, so it's fairly recent.
Yeah, so it's like more of an indie film. And he's got kind of the traditional long Jesus hair and stuff. And it's kind of him, being worn down and facing the devil, just completely alone. And I think that role maybe in some way prepared him for that. But we kind of see Obi-Wan in kind of that messianic role. And it's sad. It's sad to see him that he's not, the hero that we're used to seeing him.
Yeah. It's so crazy because he used to be this guy in power. He was pretty much put, within the order of the Jedi, and he just, I don't know. It's just crazy to see him pretty much deject the Jedi ways in a way when he told his apprentice, or technically it wasn't even his apprentice.
Yeah, it's just another Jedi.
Yeah. Just to pretty much quit being a Jedi, bury your lightsaber, and just hide, And I think that was a great scene, even though it was terrible, because it just showed where he is. He didn't try to help him. His advice was to just hide. He didn't even try to take him in at all, which is pretty much like, I gotta look out for me now, and that's just crazy to me.
Do you think kind of this whole transformation of Obi-Wan, do you think it works in like the I guess arc of his overall character throughout Star Wars?
I completely think it works. I think a lot of us, even myself, I was kind of expecting like the Obi-Wan we find in A New Hope, still recluse but very happy in his presence, his vibe that he gives off. But I love that we find this just dejected, beaten down Obi-Wan, because he even said at the end of their battle, he loved Anakin. That was his brother, and watching him fail and become a Sith, and seeing himself fail and training the chosen one, I like that it's realistic in saying that someone actually has to deal with that kind of loss, as a brother, losing all of your friends and family, and also losing the confidence in yourself to actually even train people. I think it was amazing the way they did this.
Right, and I do think it's believable as like a character transformation. I know we haven't done like an episode on Boba Fett, but kind of the theme with Boba Fett, at least the way we felt about it, a lot of people felt about it that I've talked to, is that whole transformation from bad guy to good guy didn't really make sense.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You know, but
it's kind of sudden.
It was a complete 180.
Right,
Yeah.
but this one's like more believable because of what has happened to him. This is totally reasonable to see him not like abandon the Jedi, but almost like abandon his former self.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, like you see in his face, he wants to help. Like that. I can't think of the word. It's almost like a second nature in him to want to help when the guy was being like, "Oh my gosh, you didn't pay me enough."
Yeah.
But you see it in his face, like he
Right.
wanted to say something or do something, but he didn't. He held back, and that's what I love. Like how you said, just no words, just all in his facial features. You can tell that he's not who he used to be.
Right.
I think it's amazing.
Definitely. Just correction I'm going to make. So The Last Temptation of Christ, it's a movie from the 80s, and it stars Willem Dafoe as Jesus.
Wow.
So the film with Ewan McGregor, it's...
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
kind of weird, yeah.
You don't really
The
think...
Green Goblin.
Yeah, I know. Interesting. Man of many talents. Anyway, so the film is called Last Days in the Desert. It's kind of an indie film. It was done in 2015.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
So a
definitely
long
check that
time
out.
ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay, but yeah, so that's kind of like Obi-Wan, and I think he works. Now let's talk about something that I don't think works as well. And I don't know how you guys feel about this. Kody, I think we kind of have a lot of similar opinions, so let me just kind of lay this olive branch out for you. But I don't think Reva works. Or maybe she does in the sense that they wrote her to be a certain character. I think she's really annoying. I think she kind of takes up a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
I don't think she's very intimidating as an Inquisitor.
No, so I don't know the actress's name, but she's actually a phenomenal actress. I've seen her.
Moses something.
Yeah,
Moses Ingram.
I've seen her in a couple things. I think the last thing I saw her, I think it was Ambulance. I think that was her. Solid movie. 10 out of 10 would recommend. But the way that they had her act in this show so far, it feels like she's trying too hard, and that really bothers me. Like I feel maybe it's not that she wasn't right for the role. I just think the direction they wanted her to go in just isn't right now. It's overdone.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole, I have this theory, and I don't know how many people have thought this. It's probably not a unique thought, but, like someone who's like trying to be really funny and they're trying too hard. It's like the Jim Carrey thing where they're trying too hard to be funny and that makes it like unfunny.
Yeah.
This is kind of her, but like she's trying too hard to be menacing. Or like even like the Joker. Think about like anyone after Heath Ledger's played the Joker, like Jared Leto. He's trying too hard to be crazy that it's just like it doesn't work. And I think we're kind of falling into the same trap here. Lorenzo, it looks like you have something to say about it.
Yeah, I think it's very much, when they were doing the whole press tour and everything, she was going out with Ewan and with Hayden and stuff, and so we obviously knew she had a big role in the show.
Right, yeah.
And so I think either one or two things are going to happen. She's either going to turn to the light side or something, or she's going to get killed by Vader, because as we find out in the next episode, she knows who Vader is.
Spoilers. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
we already made a spoiler on it. But yeah, I think in a lot of ways she's kind of overdoing the role. And it's not like the other Inquisitors aren't like kind of one-sided with their characters, but yeah, she just seems very kind of pushing it too much.
Yeah, I think if she would just tone herself down just even a tad, it would be a little more believable, But it's just, I think she's just trying to be angry.
Right.
Which I feel like that's not what the Sith completely are,
I mean, I know she's not a Sith, but...
technically, but I mean,
right.
What the Inquisitors, like where they came from, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I kind of think back to the Owen, like, the interrogation. I just kind of get a weird vibe from what she's doing. Like, why does she straighten out his jacket? And why is she, like, kind of talking to him? I like that. You're going to protect your family. Like, it just doesn't... she's, like, trying to be the Joker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she shouldn't be. She should be, like, more stoic, menacing. I know, like... her character's written to be more brash and kind of like impulsive, but Anakin was that, and it was never like over the top. You know what I mean?
No, like he played an awkward teenager, which he was.
Right,
like,
definitely.
And he was like more, it was more believable. Like when she gets kind of mad, it almost makes me think of like a 7-year-old whose like mom didn't let her have like the toy at Walmart.
Kylo Ren.
Wait, did you say something? Check out our sequel review. But like, she's pressing too hard, and I don't know if that's her or if that's the writing direction of her character, but I don't think it works. And I don't really like how much screen time she's getting because it's a show about Kenobi and they opened with her. So like, even just that, like, they opened the show with kind of, we assume to be her. Like, that makes me like her less because the show says Kenobi and that's what I want to see. You know, Kenobi and Vader. And so like, when you're kind of thrusting a character in there who's new, who I don't care about as much as Kenobi and Vader, that makes me like you less. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the first thing I see.
Yeah, I want to show like an example that actually works in this same show. So they introduced Leia when she was a child and kind of pushing the show in one direction, right?
Episode 2, ladies and gentlemen.
Wasn't she in the first episode?
Was she?
Yeah. I think,
she was. Okay, never mind.
And the character that plays her, she's really annoying.
She is.
Girl. But it works because when we find her in A New Hope, she's super annoying. I hated Leia in A New Hope, but I think it works because like she's this princess who pretty much gets whatever she wants, and she thinks she knows everything, which is perfect for how they portrayed her, right? And the way they showed her, it's not unbelievable.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's forced the way they portrayed Leia or even introduced her into the show.
She's just a kid. She's disobedient.
And she's a princess.
Yeah, she's a princess. She gets whatever she wants.
I think it works perfectly. They could have done the same thing with Reva, kind of just toned her down a bit and introduced her in a way that was a little more fluid, I guess, into the show.
And not the first character we see.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it would have been a lot better.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Reva. I don't think she works. Grand Inquisitor, I think he actually, outside of his egghead, I think he works.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look
Beside
great.
that, yeah.
I think he's actually a pretty good, I guess, antagonist in the show.
Yeah.
Not more towards Reva as opposed to, Obi-Wan, at least this point. He's like very stoic, very measured, very contained.
Yeah. I feel like he's more not sinister necessarily, but you can definitely feel the power in his presence.
Right. With
the little words that he actually says in that episode.
Right. And it's not over the top, and it works.
Yeah,
I think it does.
But yeah, that's pretty much episode 1. Most of it. We can kind of get towards the end. Lorenzo, if you want to give more of a synopsis towards the end, what happens kind of at the end, and it kind of segues us.
Yeah. So basically, what's going on is while Obi-Wan's kind of dealing with the Inquisitors and Owen on Tatooine, meanwhile on Alderaan, Leia, like we said, she's being stupid, snotty-nosed little kid. And she's like, first time we see her, we think we see her, but it's actually like one of her friends dressing up as her, so she doesn't have to go to like a parade or something. And she's out in the woods with her little ladybug droid, whatever, and just being a kid, having fun. And her cousin, that kid,
the annoying kid, even more annoying.
Yeah. So just like Owen, she does give a pretty good burn. She's kind of a roaster.
Like you trained his father.
Oh man.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah. So she's like one of her older cousins comes to visit, and he's like, "Well, you're not really an Organa," basically like saying you're adopted and stuff. And then she just totally shuts him up and everything. And it's she's a snotty-nosed little kid, but it's absolutely hilarious. I like that. Basically what happens, she goes running off again before like some big speech or event or something. And the bounty hunters chase her for a very long time.
It's like the speeder scene in Boba Fett.
It's like that Robert Rodriguez, the mod speeder chase. It's just like so campy. It's like,
why did they bring Robert Rodriguez to direct another chase scene? Because that's my assumption right now is that they brought him back just for that scene.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway, so she gets captured by these bounty hunters, and we find out they're working for Reva, and then Reva's using her as bait because she knows. I don't know. She might know something. I don't know if she knows if she's Anakin's kid. She found like a
connection between Organa and Kenobi.
Yeah. And so basically...
Cody, you're shaking your head.
Well, when we start talking about episode 2,
okay, we'll get there.
We'll get there,
All right, real quick. So we'll finish episode 1. So basically, Bria Organa and Bail Organa, who's played by Jimmy Smits. Super, super awesome. Jimmy Smits.
What a name.
Yeah. He's in episode 2, episode 3, and Rogue One. It might be an Andor. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so he calls Kenobi, and he's like, "Can't you get like someone else to do this?" Because he's still in like his mindset. I can't be a Jedi. I can't, stand out or do things. I'm not the right person to do this. And then Obi-Wan he comes home after work, and his little droid pops up, and he's like, "You have a visitor." And lo and behold, it's Bail, and he's like, "I need you. I need you to do this." And so he gets together, and Obi-Wan decides he's going to go and find Leia. And basically that's kind of where episode 1 leaves off.
Kind of like the very end of the episode. I just want to touch on this because I think it's kind of important.
Yeah.
Kenobi he doesn't have his lightsaber.
Yeah.
He has to go out in the middle of the desert and unbury, where he buried Anakin and his lightsaber. What do you guys think about that scene, like including that in there, that he didn't have it on him and that he buried it?
So I'm not a therapist, but
you sure?
I'm not, but like I've been watching all of cinema and therapy movie shows like on YouTube, but it's actually pretty interesting when they talk about like PTSD or like forms of coping. A lot of ways to cope from like trauma, you actually have to kind of stop avoiding it pretty much, and that's what we see Kenobi doing throughout the whole show. He's avoiding who he was, he's avoiding who he pretty much is in his nature. And this scene, he goes out literally into the desert to dig up his own past,
Right.
And he has to take it with him. That's what he needs, because believe it or not, sometimes what we go through, or especially what Kenobi goes through, is actually going to define and better his own character in the future, as we see like A New Hope and so forth.
Right. I kind of like look at it as obviously when people die, they bury them. And this was almost like the same thing to me as like him and Anakin were dead.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Anakin were dead until he went and retrieved those.
Yeah.
And then, obviously he's kind of more back to life. He's going to go on his like quest to help Leia out. And then we'll find out in the next episode. He finds out that Anakin's alive. You know what I mean? So it was almost like resurrection of like two dead characters.
Yeah, I like that. Wow.
Beautifully said. That's just the way I kind of look at it. So I think that was a really important scene. And also the disconnect, kind of like you're talking, he disconnected himself that severely to what he was. Like, even if he wanted to, like someone attacked him, found out he was a Jedi, he could not defend himself. He did not have his lightsaber. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But anyways, moving on from episode 1, he gets his lightsabers and he leaves and he goes to whatever planet that Leia is being captured on. And then Lorenzo, if you want to continue with quick synopsis of episode 2, and we can talk a little bit more about it.
Okay. So basically in episode 2, they go to this planet, and basically it's kind of like, I think when we've watched it first, we said it's like Star Wars Chinatown. It's just kind of like a kind of rainy, it's kind of like a rainy, kind of dark, kind of noirish, kind of feel. Kind of sketchy town, sketchy food, sketchy casinos, and there's a drug factory in it too.
Right, it's like a sketchy little bootleg. There's a map. Okay, this is Throwback Thursday. Modern Warfare 3, one of my favorite Call of Duties of all time. They had a map called Bootleg on it, and it was basically the same aesthetic. It was rainy, dark, little market town kind of thing. Like that's what. Anyways, continue, Lorenzo. It's just triggered a memory.
Perfect. Yeah. Anyway, so what happens is Obi-Wan goes here, and we know that basically Reva's trying to bait him there. And so he is kind of investigating, trying to figure out where she is, and he meets this kid who says, "Hey, I know a Jedi. Are you a Jedi?" He's like, "No, I'm not a Jedi." And he's like, "Well, I can find you a Jedi." And he basically finds this dude played by Kumail Nanjiani.
That guy is something else.
I love him. He's in everything now.
Yeah. Last thing I saw him, he was in Eternals. He was one of the Eternals.
Yeah, he got beefed up for that movie.
Yeah. But he's just like the total dolt and just hilarious.
It's great.
A little over the top. And so he plays this Jedi. Well, he's not a Jedi. Called Haja Estri, and so Obi-Wan sees him like with this family that's like trying to get out. He's like, "Whoa." He's like pretending to use like a mind trick to like get the guy in the document. He's like, "Oh yeah, you will let them go on your ship." He's like, "I will let them go on my ship." And then he's like, and they pay him. It's like, "Oh, thank you. You don't have to." And he's like counting his money.
Where's the money?
Exactly.
It's a great little callback for Obi-Wan being the first person to do a mind trick.
Yeah. Exactly. And then he sees this guy using it like a cheap trick.
Right.
And then he goes up and he's like, I'm looking for a little girl. And he's like, oh, here's the price for the find her, and here's the price to actually get her and stuff. And he's like, you're a fraud, basically. All these little magnets and all these little tricks and
He's
stuff.
like opening and closing the windows and stuff.
Yeah. And so, he's just a complete fraud. And Obi-Wan just completely exposes him. But later on in the episode, he turns out to kind of actually, have a heart, and he helps Obi-Wan out.
Solid guy, actually.
Yeah. But then so Obi-Wan basically finds where this drug factory, Breaking Bad moment.
Yeah.
He gets
You're like Star Wars
disguise.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah. There's like this. Yeah. He gets some spice from this girl. She's like, here, have some drugs.
She just throws, and that was Ewan McGregor's actual daughter.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool cameo. Anyway, so he goes into this old drug factory and stuff, and then he like blows up like a beaker or something. Everyone's running everywhere, and then he goes in like this back room or something, and then there's like these bad guys, and he beats them up with some
Kung Fu Jedi
Kung Fu
moves.
Jedi
Pretty
moves.
much, yeah.
Old, but he's older, and you can obviously see the age on him.
Yeah, you can see that.
That would have been light work for him,
Yeah.
in the Clone Wars.
Do a couple flips or something like that.
He's kind of out of practice.
Just maybe like a force slap or something.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. And like you're saying, he's kind of out of using his force, powers and stuff. He's just kind of rough and tumble beating them up. Anyway, so he finds Leia, and she's like, who are you? Why are you taking me? He's like, I know your dad. And he's like, no, I don't believe you. And they just kind of start
It's a very
bantering.
Kenobi, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where Luke finds Leia.
It is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And she's like, you're a little old for a Jedi, aren't you? Like old and gray and crusty or whatever.
You're a little too short for your stormtrooper. Same thing.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And anyway, so basically the rest of the episode is them kind of trying to evade Reva and the other Inquisitors and Stormtroopers and stuff. Yeah, basically. And then there's kind of a face-off almost between Obi-Wan and Reva, and then it kind of gets messed up from the Grand Inquisitor. And then he finds out that Reva knows that Anakin's not dead, that he's Vader. And then he just barely escapes because she's having an argument with the Grand Inquisitor. Basically. Hopefully.
Beautifully said. Before we really get into the nitty-gritty, I guess we can just kind of talk about Obi-Wan's kind of journey into finding Leia. Kind of like you said, you can really tell how he's not using his force powers at all. It's all him just using his brute strength. Well, not just brute strength, obviously his mind. But I think it's just a great continuation that he all of a sudden doesn't just get his lightsaber and now he can use the force again. He's still kind of on this path of returning to who he was. I thought something that was really cool in the episode is when we see the clone trooper.
Oh, yeah.
And at first I was like, I thought all the clone troopers became stormtroopers,
Right.
But someone, I saw a post actually that said, it's kind of just shows how changed Vader is from Anakin. Because Anakin, I think it was the 51st, right?
The 501st.
501st, yeah. So that was Anakin's squad.
It was the one that marched the Jedi Temple with
Yeah.
Specifically,
And those are the ones. Yeah, those are the ones that Obi-Wan and Yoda were cutting up when they went to go investigate stuff.
Right.
So that's
Right.
really. He was just shocked, kind of back into when he had to dig up his lightsaber. It's kind of it's real.
I also liked how it said it just shows how little Vader cares about who serves him. It's just because Anakin would have been mad if he found out one of his troopers were begging for money.
And on the streets.
Homeless.
Yeah. But it just shows how little Vader cares now, and I think that was just a great. At first I was kind of confused, but after reading that post, it just kind of resonated with me a little bit more about that scene. Just that quick 5-second scene. That was awesome.
Right. He's like, money for a war veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gave him money too. Imagine how conflicted Obi-Wan was seeing a 501st,
Yeah.
I know he loved the
Killed by
clones,
friends.
but
Yeah.
he killed all the Jedi. Or some good
And
portion of them.
now he's the most non-threatening thing.
Right.
Yeah.
He's sitting there in his armor with a beard. Tamara Morrison just looks super old.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, there's that. Leia gets to showcase how annoying she is in this episode.
Even more than the last.
Because, like, she doesn't believe, like, Obi-Wan's a Jedi until basically they're getting chased by, like, Inquisitors and, like, bounty hunters and stuff, and he uses the Force to, like, save her from falling because she's a tool and, like, jumps off.
Yeah. Because she
roof hop like she's a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, and she, like, puts it together, though, like, oh, wait, these bad guys are chasing us just to get to you. And then she starts running away from Obi-Wan.
Right. And I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of understand her situation. She's a little kid, you know.
Don't trust strangers.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
The space Jesus, like, you gotta trust him, you know.
I mean, he's not Rey, but anyways,
whole other pot.
Let's talk about this episode a little bit more. Did you guys like it? Was it entertaining? Do you think it did enough to progress the story?
I did have issues with this episode. Kind of continuing with mostly just Reva is the biggest issue I had with this episode.
Right.
Overall, though, it wasn't as good as the first episode.
No, for sure.
No, definitely not.
It definitely wasn't as good as the first. I did like the side characters. I like how what was his name, Rahij or whatever.
Haja.
Yeah, I like just kind of the hope that knowing that there's another Jedi out there kind of gave him, because at first he was just like, you know, this dirty dude, not dirty, but this dirt dude.
He's
sucked.
shady dude.
Yeah, he was stealing money from a family, you know. But just finding out that Obi-Wan was a Jedi, he turned just like that, you know. Like, I gotta protect these guys, I gotta help them out. He pretty much sacrificed. He didn't know he was gonna die, and he pretty much like sacrificed himself to Reva, saying, "I'm actually the Jedi," you know.
Right.
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised she didn't actually kill him.
I was actually surprised too.
Yeah. This is part of like this is my issue with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, I know it's Reva and she's different, but do you think like Vader would have?
Oh, come.
You know what I mean?
She chose the guy just for questioning him,
not even saying he was a Jedi, just for like getting in his way, and wasting time for him walking to like wherever Obi-Wan is.
And I think it shows that I think part of Reva's character is that she is kind of overblown putting on that front, because, you know, she grew up as a Jedi, you know, at least half her life or something, and so she doesn't really know how to be evil.
I mean, she can cut off hands.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah, she cut off that lady's hands, but she's really acting out of an impulse to kind of like, you know, it's kind of like Zuko, you know, if you've seen Last Airbender. Right. Whereas he's trying to prove his honor and capture the Avatar and stuff and prove it to his dad. She's trying to prove to like Vader and the Inquisitors that she's great, that she can hunt Jedi, even though she still kind of honestly is one inside. I think is probably what's going to be the plot going forward.
I kind of like that. I know one's a cartoon, obviously one's like real life, but I feel like they did that so well with how they portrayed Zuko's anger. Zuko, not Zuku.
Zuko's.
But I feel like they could definitely do the same thing just as well if she weren't as over the top, you know. But I really like that point of view.
If she were more kind of like angsty and kind of
See, I don't know if I'm gonna like. If she turns the lights out, I'm gonna be kind of upset. I'm just so sick of Disney. This is more of a personal gripe. I'm so sick of Disney making bad characters turn good.
Yeah.
I'm so over it. Like, that would
Battlefront 2.
The Iden Versio.
Yeah.
You like, you get to play as an Empire, and then it's like 2 missions in, you're like,
actually you're a
rebel. Yeah, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, one, I don't care enough about her character to want to see that progression, and 2, it's just like, it would be so annoying if they did this again, like, I didn't see that coming. She turned good.
Yeah, I'd rather see her progress even more down the dark side.
Right. Maybe she becomes like a weird, like it would be interesting to see if because she's very much like Anakin in a lot of ways, and I know they've written her to kind of be like that, and it'd be interesting to see Obi-Wan like see kind of her failure again because of the Jedi, like her going like completely dark and doing something like crazy and then getting like killed by like Vader or something, like because she chose that path. It'd be interesting if they doubled down on that, but like
I'd like that.
I'm just so sick of the whole like bad guys being good now and for no reason. So that's just my take on it. But anyways, moving on kind of to the end of the episode, one of the biggest, most important parts is, and you were shaking your head at this, so I want you to And it was more specifically, I think we were talking about Bail Organa and the connection between Kenobi. You were shaking your head. Does this have to do with like the reveal at the end? Okay, so let's talk. So basically, Reva chases Obi-Wan and Leia into like a tower kind of thing,
a warehouse,
like super high, and he's hiding, she's hiding, she runs Leia, and Reva basically is like taunting him, and she basically reveals that Darth Vader is Anakin, and that she knows that. Obi-Wan didn't know that 10 years later. Cody's pissed. Let's get his live reaction to kind of that whole thing unfolding.
Okay, so I think it was great the way Ewan McGregor was able to play this reaction of finding out that Anakin was still alive and that he is now or still Darth Vader, because you can really see just everything going back through his head, everything that he just pretty much like relived everything again. But this Inquisitor knows that he's Anakin.
How?
Exactly. Like, did she feel it before or something? Is she right now?
Because she has the ability to kind of read minds, but it's inconsistent.
But it's Anakin. I mean, it's Darth Vader. Like, did he slip or something and said, "Oh, I'm actually Anakin Skywalker" in his head? Like, no. Like,
Oops, he takes his like glove off and it says like Anakin Skywalker tattooed on his wrist, and Reva's like, I saw that. I saw it. You can't hide it from me.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I think they're making her way more important than she really is.
Yeah.
There are a few in the galaxy that know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader before A New Hope, and it's definitely not her.
I think there's the only three I can think of is Thrawn. Tarkin has his suspicions, but I don't even know if Thrawn knows. He probably has his suspicions.
Thrawn would have his suspicions. Palpatine, he was there.
Obviously knows. And then, like, Tarkin has his suspicions.
But they're only because they're so close to him and they're so smart.
Exactly.
They're just very intelligent characters.
And Tarkin knew him during the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and Thrawn in the new canon met Anakin when he was still Anakin.
Okay, so... Yeah. But, like, is there anyone else I'm missing? Reva now, besides Reva?
Yeah, and I think it's... we just have to kind of figure out why is she now so important? Because she knows this.
Yeah, like I would give them the respect if later they revealed how she found out. Like maybe by one of them, they told her like, "Hey, this guy could be Anakin Skywalker." If they told her, and then it would kind of show more of her character trying to be a big boss, as if she's actually really close with Vader. Kind of showing Obi-Wan like, hey, I know something you don't know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But if they just continue to play it off as that she's just super close to Vader and she knows everything now, then the respect goes completely downhill from there.
That totally makes sense.
So I don't like doing the writing for shows like this.
Yeah.
But my theory is maybe, do you think it's possible she could have seen Anakin marching in the Jedi Temple when Order 66 was going down? Like... But then how would she put two and two together?
Exactly.
Some kind of,
you know what I mean?
If she has a certain kind of force ability to recognize personalities,
maybe like
individuals,
she felt
maybe because
that presence.
Because Ahsoka is able to feel his presence, and Obi-Wan was able to as well. But that is plausible.
But then Ahsoka doesn't even know, right? At this point,
she
hasn't. Does she have an idea?
It's not until Rebels is when she finds out.
When she gets the reveal, like
yeah.
I am, or he doesn't say it, but she
feels his presence.
I think he says like Ahsoka, and it kind of comes into like an Anakin voice.
Yeah.
While he's like in the Vader suit, but like, so do you like buy that? Do you like that explanation? If she like felt that dark presence, like before and then after again, like, do you like that? Like, do you like that she knows?
I could buy it if it were like that. Like if she were in the Jedi Temple and he
was like walking by and she's like
somehow missed her with his lightsaber,
or for some reason he chose not to kill her.
Obviously he murders. Like maybe he like sensed the dark side
for whatever reason, because we know that the Inquisitors, they're Jedi and they're most likely Padawans because they killed off most of the masters.
Maybe he took her in.
Yeah.
Is that possible? He took her in.
I mean,
I don't know.
Technically, it's not canon, but Star Killer.
Maybe she's like up here and he's like down here, and she's like, oh, I've never felt like that before.
Yeah.
And then she feels it again when like she gets taken in and gets trained by Vader. I don't know.
I could actually buy that. I could actually buy that.
I don't like doing the writing for
Right.
for them because that's their job, and I don't like to explain away inconsistencies and stuff like that.
It would be really something cool to see, actually, kind of like a flashback of seeing how that would actually play out. I would actually enjoy seeing that.
Would you actually like that she knows, though? Like, even if it was that way? Like, I guess it kind of makes sense, but do you like that?
It makes it's better than her...
Just knowing.
Yeah, and I think it also depends a lot of if Vader knows that she knows. Because if he doesn't and he finds out she's dead, she's toast.
That would probably be a great way to
kill her off?
Yeah.
I just don't think they will.
They probably won't. They'll probably make her good, but just... Man, like, what if she just slips and calls him Anakin because she thinks she's a hot shot now?
Oh.
And then he's like, oh, really?
But that's the thing, too, is, like, if she does that, I just don't think Disney has, like, I don't think they have the cojones to, like, actually kill her. He would probably, like, if Vader, like, calls him Anakin, and Vader, like, makes, like, some sort of remark, like, know your place, I'd be so pissed.
Same. Well, I mean, like...
You know what I mean?
Disney had the rights to Star Wars when they did Rogue One, and that hallway scene was beautiful.
Are they going to kill off their new golden child? You know what I mean?
Look what they did to the Grand Inquisitor, you know? Like...
Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah. So, theories about that. Okay.
So, basically, Reva stabs Grand Inquisitor. He catches up to her. He's like, leave Kenobi alone. This is not your thing, basically, and you suck. And then she, like, sticks her lightsaber in one of his two stomachs, I guess.
Yeah, so here's a super-duper speculative fan theory. So, he's an Utai. And we know he's from Utapau.
What did you just call me?
In Utah. So like in episode 3, obviously we know Obi-Wan like goes to hide out on Utapau and check on General Grievous and stuff, and they have the fight and everything. Anyway, so the first people he goes to are the Utais, who are like this tall people with like the lines on their face and everything.
Thousands of battle droids.
And like the other little aliens are the Pows, so Utai Pau, like the two sentient species. Anyway, so reading on Wikipedia, I saw like a post that said they have 2 stomachs. And we know that definitely Grand Inquisitor, he looks different in Rebels, and he's definitely alive in Rebels. And we've definitely, seen a lot of people in, including Fennec Shand in Book of Boba, getting a gut shot and coming back fine thanks to modern medicine.
You mean cyberpunk?
Mod medicine, mods.
Seriously, that's what it was.
Yeah, but obviously, with the canon and everything, like he's gonna be alive. And I think a lot of people are like ticked off. It's like, oh, he looks too chunky in the head and everything. And I'll just say, like, maybe he lost function in one of his stomachs, so obviously he can't eat as much, and he's not going to be getting the gains as much. So he's probably going to get a little slimmed down.
Yeah, his head shrinks.
Yeah, he just gets emaciated and stuff.
Well, no, how does that help, like, the top of his egg head?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
just
fat
don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but yeah,
so
that's just...
You're telling me Reva gave him Slim Fast by stabbing him in the stomach?
Man, I gotta talk
to her. Yeah, if you want to say it like that, yeah.
Bro, that would be, it would be the most Disney thing ever if he came back and like thanked her for it or something like, thank you. I was 40 pounds overweight. Thank you. It's like, dude,
yeah.
But
oh man.
Yeah, so that happens, and then the very, very end of the episode, Leia and Obi-Wan get on a ship, escape the planet, and then Obi-Wan, upon learning of the revelation that Vader's Anakin, he kind of is like looking out in space, like spacing out. Leia's like wouldn't shut up, but like she's kind of like fading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like he's like kind of not paying attention to her, and he says Anakin, and then you see Vader in a bacta tank. Opens his eyes, like senses that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so basically, kind of like I was saying with the lightsaber thing, it's like they were both kind of like dead to one another.
Yeah.
And now they're alive to one another. And Kenobi finds out, and then I think that's when Vader gets the confirmation that Obi-Wan's out there somewhere. He probably had his suspicions, you know what I mean? But didn't know for sure. Now he
didn't feel in the Force that he was actually there.
Because Obi-Wan's closing himself off to the Force, and he couldn't talk to Qui-Gon, he didn't use it, he buried his lightsaber.
Right.
And so now he's back kind of in the loop. And because of that, it's going to get very dangerous. Probably for Leia. And Luke, because he's not there to protect Luke now.
I think Leia will be fine. I hope that kind of subplot's done after this episode.
Yeah,
me too. Actually,
where he needs to make sure he protects Luke.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, not even that. I don't even think it's going to be like about the kids much anymore.
I just really hope that there's no confrontation with Darth Vader and any of the kids because I want to keep them as far away as possible.
Right. That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think Obi-Wan would let that happen.
Well, I mean,
died before
could he stop Vader right now? You know what I mean? Could he even get in his way enough?
I think before he meets Vader, he's gonna have to connect with Qui-Gon, and I think
so.
And you know, with the things they had in like the little prequel, like little hype thing at the beginning of the first episode, the last thing that says like connect with Qui-Gon or something, you'll meet Qui-Gon, and I'm more than likely we're gonna have at least an audio cameo of Liam Neeson, which I'm really looking forward to.
Right. Me too.
When he came back in the Clone Wars in the Mortis arc, that was fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't think he can actually like be a full-fledged Force ghost, so I don't think we'll see him. Like, I think there's something in canon that's like he couldn't like complete his training to become one with the Force, but you'll definitely hear him, I think.
Yeah.
But okay, so like, if you had to rate episodes 1 and 2, just before we go more into the conversation of like what we think is going to happen in further episodes, if you had to rate episodes 1 and 2 like out of 10, how would you guys rate each one individually? Let's start with episode 1. Kody, go ahead.
I actually really loved episode 1. I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Definitely, it has a rewatchable ability. I don't know what that word is, but
rewatchability.
Yeah, like I can definitely watch that episode over and over again and just analyze it over and over again. It's beautifully done. I loved it. 10 out of 10.
Okay, awesome. Lorenzo, what do you think about episode 1?
I think maybe there's some things I was looking for. I was like hoping Qui-Gon would show up, and those other things, and I wasn't really seeing the whole Leia kind of subplot happening. So just based on my expectations, I'd give it more like an 8 or a 9. But I think it does work as compelling enough to kind of be an exposition and kind of get the plot rolling.
Right. Okay. I will give episode 1 a 9 out of 10, simply because it was a lot of exposition. A 10 out of 10 would have been like Rogue One Vader hallway scene, Luke Skywalker coming back in The Mandalorian, like something like iconic Star Wars that's instantly like legend. This is very, very good.
Okay, actually, I want to change mine to
no,
good.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But just because kind of something we talked about earlier, and kind of my biggest gripe with Disney now is it doesn't feel like Star Wars because there are no Star Wars aliens. It's all humans.
Oh, we did talk about this.
Yeah, that is kind of an issue because I think a big part of Star Wars is, like any other, franchise, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, there has to be a lot of, it needs to feel different than our real world.
It's supposed to be magical,
Yeah, and I think
especially Star Wars too. That should be. Yeah. Anyways. Continue.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the way Star Wars does that with exceptional, makeup and costume. Not that they didn't have that in the show, but having a character that is not like a near human. Because Chewbacca in the original trilogy, he breaks things up. And Jar Jar, for being kind of Jar Jar, he does break things up.
A Sith Lord.
Yeah, a Sith Lord. yeah, that is a very good point. And so I wonder if we're going to have some kind of interesting or maybe funny like side character that's a droid I think is coming.
Ugh.
And then maybe like another alien character or something. I would like that because you have to think of kind of like a group. There's like a gang that does stuff, and for like preparing for like the final battle, everyone has to do a thing and do something.
Do you think it's going to be like a heist movie like towards it? I don't see where there's room for that. In terms of like Obi-Wan meeting Vader.
Yeah, I know it's like working towards that, obviously towards the 6th and last episode, but kind of between there, aside from resolving getting Leia back home, I don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Oh man. Okay, so 9 out of 10. I agree with you. The alien thing, like when the Inquisitors, this is where it really stuck out, especially on Tatooine, like the Outer Rim. You would think that there would be a bunch of that.
And in the cantina, there are.
Yeah,
like there's a wolf guy and like lizard guys, and like there are very, very few.
But they walk into the business at the beginning and like looking for the hiding Jedi, and it's just all humans, all like literally, and it's like the only alien there is like the Inquisitors.
Yeah,
the two, and it's like, huh? That makes no sense to me. Anyways.
Yeah.
Before we move on with that, episode 2, Kody, I want to hear your rating on that one.
I'll probably give episode 2 probably a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it. My only issue was with Reva, and I love that connection, especially after the way you just phrased it, just like that connection with Obi-Wan and Vader. Yeah,
it's like poetry, right?
Oh man, it gave me chills. But so I give it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't as good. And I probably would watch it again, not likely, just because Reva really made me mad.
Piss me off.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah, I'd give it a solid 10 out of 10. That's me being a little generous.
Okay. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
I think I'm leaning a little more towards an 8 because Reva is kind of an issue. Also, when she does like the whole parkour Batman,
she's like running forward,
doing
backflips.
The footage looks like it's Michael Keaton, like Batman 1989. There's like this footage of her jumping towards a pipe and like she lands on the pipe and then slides down. I'm like, that's just so campy.
Man, when did we get to Assassin's Creed? Like, what the heck?
Bro, like the one that really got me, she's running forward and like jumping towards a roof and doing a backflip, and it just looks so awkward. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of slow-mo, and then she like pushes down a pillar and like runs and kind of all the jumping and stuff over like the roofs. And that was kind of
me too.
But I think that one of the things I did like, and I kind of understand about kind of what Disney's going for, is the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia. And, the hologram in New Hope, she said my father in Clone Wars, she clearly knows at least who Obi-Wan is.
Right.
And so it makes sense they would have had some kind of interaction before that.
Yeah.
Whereas, Luke knows who Ben is, but he doesn't know who Obi-Wan is.
Right.
And so it's like they're being cared for or raised by two different people.
Right.
And
they are.
They really are.
Okay, that's a good rating. I guess that's a fair rating. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, actually. I liked it a lot less than probably you guys did, because this is like a recurring problem for me with Disney Star Wars. And I know this is Barbara Chow, so it's not like as severe as like The Mandalorian, let's say, or Boba Fett, where it's different directors. But there's like so many episodes in those kinds of shows that feel like filler. It's a subplot just to be a subplot.
Yeah.
This kind of feels like that, not entirely, because obviously the Leia, like, it's important, but like you didn't necessarily need to have that in the show, him going and saving Leia. It almost like I'm just kind of ready to be through this whole thing. I wish it focused a little bit more on like Obi-Wan. And maybe hiding from Inquisitors more. Like, even if it was just episode 1.5, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would have been more interesting if they kind of did more into that and his relationship with the Force and him kind of trying to regain. And I know he needed a catalyst to do it, but I think a 6 out of 10 is probably a good rating. And then the Reva thing just kind of dropped a few. But, yeah, I think I'm happy to hopefully be done with this subplot moving forward. And I hope it is done. I hope it's not like I'm flying on the ship with Leia and then some pirates, like, like something like that would just like, just to waste our time. Like,
kind of slows the progression towards, the confrontation with Vader, which we know has to happen, if not in episode 5, in episode 6 of the series.
Right. Like, do you want to see more that kind of conflict or more Obi-Wan's inner conflict? I'd rather see the inner conflict and him kind of regaining Obi-Wan as opposed to something like that. So
Same.
So 6 out of 10. So that's kind of our review on that. I guess going forward, what do you hope to see? What do you think we're going to see in the next 4 episodes? Obviously, ending the series.
I know. Well, it's not that I know for sure, but I feel like Obi-Wan's not going to be completely resolved. He's not going to be completely who he was before.
Right.
At the end of this season, because I have heard that they're thinking of doing a season 2.
Oh, really?
So he'd probably be like maybe, on a good path, But I feel like he's not going to be completely there yet, I am hoping that we do get a face-off between him and Vader, especially since season 2 is an actual like promised thing.
Right.
But if it is, then Obi-Wan's gonna have to defeat him for it to be a canon at least. Because when Vader faces off against Obi-Wan in New Hope, he says, "Last time we met, you were the master."
Or I was a apprentice.
Yeah,
something like that.
I was but a learner, but now I'm the master.
Yeah, something.
Like yeah.
I was but a learner, but now I am the master.
Yeah, something like that.
Only master of evil doth. I'm kind of agree with you. I have my reservations. I do want to see that confrontation, but how is that going to be resolved?
Right.
Like Obi-Wan's obviously in a weakened state. Vader's freaking Vader. He would mop the floor with Obi-Wan at this point. So like, how are they going to have conflict and Obi not get killed? Exactly.
That's where I'm kind of like not completely sure with. I would love to see if they were going to do season 2. I'd love to see Obi-Wan just get his butt whooped. And then, you know, near the end of season 2, Obi-Wan's, you know, he's completely but no, he's pretty much like completely back to where he was. He has a Force. He's super strong in the Force, and then he mops the floor with Vader. I would love to see that.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know which one. It'd just be kind of a tough thing to balance with canon and stuff. You know what I mean?
They have to. I just don't want them to try and decanonize
A New Hope.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah. You know, like just stuff like that. I feel like I can definitely see happening, and that would really mess up the show for me.
Right. You can't like screw with the canon, otherwise, like the show just ends up making us upset, like the sequels. And
Exactly.
It's just you're sitting there watching A New Hope, like how does any of this make sense anymore?
Exactly. Yeah.
Lorenzo, what do you think?
You know, as much as I want to see the competition with Vader and Obi, I think honestly I'm looking forward to Liam Neeson, and there's no way he can't not be in like the next couple episodes.
Right.
And I think he needs to have a really deep conversation, communion with Qui-Gon to basically figure out and fix his identity crisis. Am I Obi-Wan Kenobi or am I just old Ben? And that he's basically going to figure out what he's going to be for just about the next decade until he has his thing with Luke and everything. And I kind of do want Reva to die.
Oh, same.
High five, everybody.
I think, yeah.
Awkward. Okay. We're good.
Awesome.
I do want Reva to die because I think she but it needs to be like really tragic, and for her to like completely miscalculate, you know, who Vader is, and you know she's just trying to kind of kiss up to him. Is like, I brought you Obi-Wan and everything, and he's like, well, now I don't need you anymore. You're disposable. Like every one of the clones, like every one of the Inquisitors, you're just for getting closer to Obi-Wan.
Right, and I want Obi-Wan to like feel it too, because like this could be an interesting foil of how he reacts to, you know, another quote unquote failure. Because he might like, it might be like not Survivor, but like he might just project all of his. If he learns more who Reva is and like that kind of happens, he might project a lot of his guilt onto her. Yeah, with Obi-Wan, you know what I mean? And so that would be really interesting.
I would love to see that.
I don't think we'll get that.
Probably not.
Because it's Disney.
Yeah.
And she'll turn good.
Gosh.
But I think even if she does...
Wouldn't she have to die, though, at some point?
Even if she turns good, she especially has to die.
I would like to see Obi-Wan trying to change her, just trying to convince her that, hey, this is not the way to go. And then, kind of like you said, just her bringing him to Obi-Wan anyways. And she's like, oh, maybe I should have, you know, like, listened to this guy. But it's too late, you know?
Right, like, he failed again. Like,
I would...
you know what I mean?
I would love to see that.
And then, like, Anakin, he's, like, staring his greatest failure in the face.
Yeah. And then he sees it even more because this guy just ruthlessly killed this girl who served him. You know, like, that would just be just another punch to the gut, just seeing how horribly he failed.
Right, well, like, think about the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, Obi-Wan was the master and Anakin was the apprentice, and then, you know, it's kind of almost like, you know, you probably relate to this more. You have a kid, or another, you know.
Yeah.
You see, like, you raise your child and you want to see what it becomes, but, like, this is Obi-Wan. He raised his child, you know. He was the master. Now Anakin's a master of sorts, and, like, how he would treat his apprentice, like, completely opposite, obviously, of the way Obi-Wan would want to, and that would be, like, one of those things, like, how did I fail this badly to where this is what he turned out to be as, like, in my spot. You know what I mean? Kind of, like, one of those things. I think it'd be really interesting to see.
Definitely.
But I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if they'll think that deeply about it. I really hope so.
Yeah, hopefully the writers will, you know, mix something up and really consider how it fits into the larger scheme of things.
Right. Awesome. Well, any other last thoughts? I know we've been talking about this for a while, but this is really interesting. This is just episodes 1 and 2. Anything else that comes to mind about Kenobi before we move on? Just last final words. I think, I guess my recommendation, I think it's a good show. I really do. It is not Boba Fett. It is not the sequel trilogy.
It has a plan.
It has
It has a direction, and it's not. At least we're hoping the whole Leia thing isn't too much of a side adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they're actually trying harder because this actually leads into something that pretty much established almost a religion, like you said. It's Star Wars, you know.
Yeah, it's a religion in the UK, you know, Jediism. You can look it up.
Oh,
yeah.
Isn't it in Australia? Something like that.
Yeah, I think it's worldwide.
I just know that.
Yeah, Church of the Jedi.
Poor guys.
Anyways, this is one of those shows that they can't, like, assassinate one of these legacy characters, especially not I know they did it to Luke and that pissed people off, but if they do this again, like they can't afford to. Like you run the risk of like turning off longtime fans to never watch Star Wars again.
Yeah.
Like anything new.
Or buy anything.
And we saw what happened, with Rise of Skywalker. Right. As much as, we have a distaste for the entire sequel trilogy. The difference between Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi.
Where's this guy a year ago when we did our podcast?
And I will say this on the record. I actually did like The Last Jedi.
Oh,
and
never mind.
We don't need to get into that.
I retract my
statement. The fact that so many people did not like it, and that Rise of Skywalker was just made to appease to those fans, shows kind of how weak Disney can be when it comes to their productions. And I think if they do mess this up, the fans are going to have a lot of backlash. If they don't, that's good. That means there are people who understand Star Wars and are going to keep making great series and books and games that really tap into, not just what we've seen before, but kind of, the spirit of the Force, kind of the yearnings of the hearts of fans, like things we want to see explored, questions that we have.
Right. Well, yeah. No, I do hope. It seems like Deborah Chow's really smart, knows what she's doing, and can make a really good story. So I'm not as worried as I was with like Boba Fett or the sequel trilogies with Jar Jar Abrams and Ruin Johnson and all that stuff. We'll see where this goes, but this is one they cannot afford to mess up.
No.
And I think they understand that. It seems like they're giving us a lot of what we want and some like of what we don't want. They're kind of like sliding it with the Reva thing, but like
they're sugarcoating. They're giving it some flavor. Enough cameos, enough flashbacks, things that kind of make us remember. So we'll just have to see. Third episode of the series really is kind of the linchpin.
Yeah, well, we'll see because that's half of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have to
really
see where that goes. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy listening to this episode and watching the Kenobi series as much as we did, or less than we did. Let us know in the comments below. Tell us if we're wrong and it's basically The Last Jedi 2.0. I don't think it is, but please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Special thank you to Lorenzo for being with us today, having good conversation about Star Wars. This is something we really enjoy. It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome to be here.
Awesome. And again, thank you guys for listening. This has been 3 Guys, 1 Mic, and we're out.